Oh, okay, no problem, no worries.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, got that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, putting it closer. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Face to Face podcast, and my name is Victor DAFFRECE, and it feels great to be back on the screens. And in today's episode, we want to tackle a very important issue, and this issue has to do with mental health and betting. And to competently dissect this issue, I have with me a renowned clinical psychologist in the person of Professor Chiwoza Bandawe. So together we'll discuss very important aspects of this particular topic. Please stick around. Professor Chiwoza, welcome to Face to Face.
Well, thank you, Victor. Nice to be here.
Great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, sure.
So let us set the ball rolling. From a psychological perspective, what happens in the mind of a person when someone starts gambling, and why is it so easy to get hooked up in gambling?
Yeah, so basically, what happens is that we have what is called a chemical in our brains that is called dopamine. And basically, this is a chemical that makes us feel good. It's known as the feel good hormone. So when we are engaged in an activity, the dopamine drive is very active. And what then happens is that we begin to associate gambling with dopamine, with feeling good. And the hook comes when you are no longer chasing the money, but you're actually chasing the feeling that comes from gambling. So, yeah, as you are playing, as you are gambling, you begin to feel good, you begin to feel excited, you begin to feel, gosh, I might win. And then that excitement is what people become addicted to.
Interesting explanation. But then, um, talking about the exciting part about gambling, we all know, and of course, those that are into gambling know that gambling is not always as exciting as people anticipate it to be. They lose, sometimes they win, and predominantly they lose, actually. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people can quite agree.
Yes.
So I wanted to understand if excitement has been stricken off from this equation, to say that the person is persistently losing their money. Why are they still getting hooked up to betting?
So basically, what happens is that when you are playing, particularly a game of uncertainty, that you might win, you might lose,
Yes.
and you are not sure, several things happen. The first thing is that you have an illusion of winning. So you may lose, but you believe that no, the next time I will win. So you keep chasing that. Yeah, you keep convincing yourself, I may actually win the next time. So it becomes a continuous chase. And then we tell ourselves, we rationalize to ourselves that, okay, I lost this time, but definitely I need to make up for the loss that I have had, or the losses I have had. And that I'm going to have this one big win that will cover all the losses that I have had. And we call that intermittent motivation. It's where you win a little something, but then you lose, you lose, you lose, you lose. But because you may have won a little something, it keeps pulling you back, believing that there's going to be this great big win.
Now, Molongo Sola Buno Bueno, but I wanted you to walk us through the psychological process that makes betting addictive, especially for young people and adolescents. And you can go further to expand whether issues to do with addiction uh, do correlate with age of a person.
Right. So basically, what happens is that the person believes that they have control. It is addiction comes when you lose control. It is when the gambling basically has control over you, and it begins to take over various aspects of your life. So you begin to find that you are no longer able to stop when you know you need to stop. So what happens is you keep going despite the fact that it is costing you, that maybe you are losing money, you are having to lie to your family and to your friends, but you keep going, because you get to a point where you feel you have to, in order for you to feel alive, to feel that you're achieving something. You have to just keep going on and on and on. And so it slowly begins to take over your life. And so because it's beginning to take over your life, the person you find it is difficult to let go of. It's like you are in the grip of this addiction, and it is hard to stop, despite the fact that it is really damaging to your life and to your well-being.
It mostly starts as a fun activity. It starts as a fun
It
activity. You
does.
just want to explore. There are people that have made reference to the game, all these games that are going on
Yeah.
on the internet, gambling games. But when does a person actually tell that, it's moving from being a fun activity into an addiction? Where exactly is that turning point?
That specific turning point comes when you are no longer chasing the money. What you are actually chasing is the feeling. That is the turning point. And that feeling begins to control you. It begins to make you want more and more and more of it. And that's the thing about addiction. It is called tolerance, whether it's drinking, whatever the addiction is. For you to get the same level of satisfaction, you need more and more. So you become dependent. Now, this is not a chemical dependence, such, but although you in a sense, in terms of the dopamine, you become very dependent rather than on a substance, so, like THC for marijuana or ethanol for alcohol. So it is that dependence that I have to play these games. I have to continue doing this. That dependence is where the addiction comes in. That is the turning point. That basically your life basically almost comes to a halt, that your life evolves around that gambling, around the addiction, so that the other things you used to do, like interacting with friends, you begin to do less and less of. It begins to occupy your thoughts. You begin to think about it more and more. And it begins to give you that sense of purpose for life, or that aim, that ambition, that you believe, no, I have to have this in order for me to feel alive as a person.
Now, as a psychologist, does this type of addiction brings resentment in a person, whereby you have a sense of guilt?
Very much. There is a lot of guilt. There is a lot of guilt because you are lying to people. There's a lot of guilt about the money that is just being wasted. Apart from guilt, there's a lot of shame. And shame means a feeling of being inadequate and that you are a failure. There's a lot of fear and anxiety. There's a lot of depression. We also know that it affects a person's ability to sleep, to eat, and it begins to occupy. So it actually becomes a mental health issue. And so we can see many people becoming depressed, becoming very anxious, and actually developing mental disorders, common mental disorder. And a mental disorder is something that basically affects your ability to function effectively.
Now, I wanted you to define this. What is the difference between losing slowly over time and losing a large amount at once, in terms of psychological impact?
Yeah, so if you lose a large amount at once, what that tends to do is that is a shock to your system.
Yes.
And you can actually stop because you say that, no, this is just too much.
Yes.
But when you lose slowly over time, that is more dangerous because you basically begin to tolerate the losses. You begin to explain the losses. You begin to justify the losses, and you begin to realize that actually, um, I don't have to live continuously like this. So as you continue bit by bit by bit, you don't realize that actually the gambling is taking more and more control over you.
Yeah.
And by the time it fully controls you, it's almost too late.
So you did make mention of this addiction turning into a disorder. So when does casual gambling shift into a disorder, and what does that shift feel like mentally before others can be able to notice? Like, I know, I think something is going on, something amiss is going on with this person.
Yeah, yeah. So for many people, when they are gambling, it can be fun, it can be a game, it can be, something that they think is harmless. But it is when they begin to realize that it is taking over their lives. They begin to feel that they struggle to sleep. They begin to feel that all they're thinking about is basically the gambling. But also, they begin to notice that they're feeling very guilty. They are no longer as happy. But they're also beginning to notice that even their relationships with their friends may be strange. They may want to more isolate. They may be more fearful. That's when, within themselves, they begin to realize that no, something is beginning to happen here.
Now, let us dive deep into the silence, shame, and hidden struggles that surround the addiction that is gambling. Why do many people hide their, gambling problems, and why is silence the default reaction? Because I can tell you that we are moving around streets and we are working with people in these different offices, people that are struggling with gambling addictions, but they don't tell because they are covered in shame. So, I mean, why do people hide such problems?
Well, it is precisely what you said, shame, but also because gambling is seen as a moral failing.
Okay.
That you are no longer, or that you are not cautious about the use of money, that you are just reckless and careless. You are doing something that you know one shouldn't be doing. You are lying, you are hiding things, you are getting more into debt. Some people go to the extent of stealing in order to maintain their gambling habit, and so on. So as a result, there is that sense that if I confess or admit I'm struggling with gambling, I am a person who has failed. Yeah, I have a moral failing, and so it brings a lot of shame associated with it. But also because society generally tends to judge people's struggles, people's internal struggles. And because there's a lot of judgment of internal struggles, you find that actually people would rather keep things to themselves.
And I'm glad that you've brought the morality aspect of gambling and how the society perceive issues to do with gambling. And perhaps I wanted you to touch a little bit on culture, how our culture has changed over time. Because I remember back in the day, kumuzi kuja maswera juga chancha. It was a big issue back then. Polisa mamanga mugamabanga juga. Now that there's a modern way of doing that juga in the frame of gambling, mukuona kuti mene chikhalidwe chathu chilili panopa, has our culture been defeated by technology, modernity? How would you respond to this?
Yes, I would definitely say so. Because what I can see is that umuntu watu, I think tiwona kuti umuntu watu pakadali pano, it's like we have lost our sense of umuntu. That tikungotengeka ndi zinthu monga, for example, ndalama, winning. So the whole concept of taking care of each other, looking out for each other, is lost. And what has happened now is that it is more competitive. That people, are not as caring, recognizing that if things are going well for you, then they will also go well for me. And so that community spirit, that cultural spirit of looking after each other has really been eroded over time. And actually, gambling itself is a reflection of that, because people are desperately trying to find some sense of meaning and happiness outside um, the cultural or the social cohesion that existed there.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Face to Face podcast with me, Victor DAFFRECE, and my guest today is Professor Chiwoza Bandawe, a renowned clinical psychologist. I'm glad that you are enjoying this conversation. So, Prof, let us talk about psychological background of a human being. Which personality traits or backgrounds make someone more vulnerable to harmful gambling behavior?
So, what we know from the literature is that people who are more, if you like, sensitive, or who are more introverted will tend to be more addicted to gambling, primarily because it is a secretive, private
Okay.
activity.
Wow.
Yeah. So because it's a secretive, private activity, that's what happens. But the reality is, every human being is at risk of it, because that dopamine feeling of doing well, of succeeding, of feeling good is attractive to to everybody.
Now, we also touch on issues to do with economy of a society
Yes.
like ours
Yes.
as regards to the problem that we have as at present, gambling. Stress, poverty, and the Malawi environment in general. How do poverty, unemployment, and daily financial pressures in Malawi influence risky betting behavior?
They do very much, because people believe or seek a quick way of coming out of their economic challenges. And they believe, often, because they will see advertisements, or they will hear from people that, oh, I won so much. And there is a belief that money can come very, very quickly, that money can just come instantly. And indeed, for some people, they are lucky, but that's for a very few people who may win big, or and things like that. So those drive people. They drive people. But it's not just about the money. It's about having, or it's about using the gambling to take away the feeling that you have associated with poverty, the feelings, the challenges that people have. And people walk around with a lot of pain in their day-to-day lives. And by walking around with that pain, the gambling acts as something that makes you forget, or it numbs the pain, that you use it as a way of coping from dealing with the emotional pain that you have in your day-to-day struggles. Because the day-to-day struggles that people have, it's exhausting. It puts a huge weight on you, and people seek relief from that. And sometimes they then resort to gambling as a way of overcoming that.
So, Prof, is it safe to say that our poverty as a country is bait to the predicaments that we have found ourselves, including this addiction that we are talking in this episode?
It's a contributing factor. Absolutely. It's a contributing factor. And especially the mindset that I can make a quick buck by gambling. It can help me out of my problems immediately and quickly.
And it is quite very evident that the population that is indulging in irresponsible gambling is, these young ones, the teenagers, going upwards and sometimes even way lower. I wanted you to touch on peer pressure. How does peer pressure affect youth gambling, especially in low income settings such as our country?
It does, and not just in low income settings, but universally, because adolescents and young people are at an age where they are seeking validation from peers, from friends. They're in competition. They are seeking to belong. And when they hear stories of making money as a result of gambling and so on. It's a very strong pull because people are very much influenced by what others around them are doing. And then when others are engaging in it, and then you find that they are also maybe they'll have a small win here, a small win there. Then they will, broadcast it and tell their friends, and the friends will be drawn to it to say that, oh, if that can happen to my friend, it can also happen to me. So it absolutely does have that.
Somewhere you also made mention of umuntu. I really got interested to unpack that term. How does the umuntu philosophy shape community responses and failures in supporting people struggling with gambling addictions?
Ubuntu, which is basically the sense that I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am. It's recognizing that my humanity is connected to your humanity. And so Ubuntu plays a role in that it can help if the community owns the problem or the challenge and say this is our issue, our problem, rather than it is an individual issue or problem, then you will find that actually it goes a very long way in helping to address. So the community coming together and saying we have a problem, we own this problem. What can we do to support and help our young people? Therefore, that's when the Umuntu aspect can come in. But also because it is lacking, people in seeking some sense of meaning, some sense of success in terms of identity and achieving something will often seek to gamble or become addicted to substances.
So why are young people more quickly drawn into risky betting compared to adults?
Well, it's the nature of young people. Young people take more risks. Young people are more adventurous. Young people will try things. Adults or older adults have the benefit of life experience and knowing that no, doing this has consequences. And they also, because they may have been through various challenges. Whereas young people, there's also a sense of invulnerability, which means they feel that, oh no, the worst cannot happen to me. It only happens to those who are, to others, but not to me. Somehow I'm protected. Somehow I'm immune from the consequences of my actions. That's what happens with young people. So that's why you find that the risk among young people is much higher.
So, Prof, you being a parent, is are the problems that young people are facing as far as irresponsible betting is concerned a sign that we have got a lapse in responsible parenting?
No, I really wouldn't say so. I don't think it's fair to blame it all on parents. I think um, it's a multifaceted issue and challenge. It's economic, it is political in terms of legal frameworks. So it's a vast community problem. Yeah. Parents may have a role to play in terms of maybe some parents may not be as available to the children as they should be. But I would say it goes beyond just the parents.
We shift our focus to talking about mental health literacy and service gaps. Is Malawi as a country prepared to handle rising gambling related mental health cases, and what support is currently missing, in your opinion, Professor?
So in Malawi, I find that we have the main challenge we have is that we have very few mental health professionals. Very few. I mean, we have, for example, 5 psychiatrists or 6 now, the whole country of 22 million. And so that is always a challenge. So I think what needs to happen is we need to take our mental health out into the community. So to train, for example, religious leaders, community leaders, teachers, right? So that more people are sort of aware of basic mental health issues and challenges, and to know where they can refer and to whom they can refer. So, because it is an issue, it is a growing issue in terms of the capacity to navigate and manage, everyone. There are efforts that are being made, but um, there are far more people that need help, or yeah, that need help than. Sorry, can we take that again? There are far more people um, that are there than professionals that are there.
So, what systems, counseling, debt support, awareness campaigns would actually work for Malawi?
All of them, all of them. So we need to educate the community. We need to have group work where groups can meet. But the most important thing is we need to destigmatize gambling, especially gambling addiction, as a problem. We need to recognize that that is a problem, that is an issue, and we shouldn't judge the people who are going through it, so that people can feel free. We also need to talk about the stories of triumph of those who have struggled with it and have overcome. There may be some people who are willing to talk about it, but most people sort of remain hidden. But we need to demystify it.
Now, we speak about industry regulation and national responsibility. Should betting companies, telcos, banks, and regulatory bodies carry moral or social responsibility for gambling harm? Because personally, I find it that they are at a conflicted situation whereby at the same time they want more customers, because all these people that are playing all these betting games are their customers. They are earning revenue out of them. But if they try to spread the message of responsible gambling themselves, aren't they conflicted? So, should betting companies take that responsibility to preach about responsible gambling?
Yes, they should. I mean, I believe they should. I believe that the thing about gambling, especially gambling addiction, is that you are dealing with somebody who is vulnerable, with people who are very vulnerable. And you find that people are profiting from the vulnerability. So I think what betting companies should do is to talk more about responsible gambling, but they should also provide options for help. So they should, for example, work more, closer with mental health professionals and psychologists. Say that, okay, if somebody is struggling or with gambling, where can they go? Who can they reach out to? Yeah. So that's very, very important.
So, if someone is in early stage addiction today and they are watching us in this episode, what is the first step they must take?
The first step is to acknowledge that you have a problem and to talk to someone. Go and talk to someone. It is very important that you don't keep it to yourself.
Yes.
Because when you keep it to yourself, that's when it festers and it grows. So talk to someone, a family member, maybe a spouse, but talk to someone. Also, seek professional help. Yeah, go and seek professional help, rather than go through it alone, because it can be overwhelming. Then the other thing is, don't judge yourself, because there's a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and be hopeful. Know that actually I don't have to live like this, that it can change, but I just need help to go through it. And just to add, I think for family members who have someone who is struggling with gambling, it's important to, first of all, be present. It's important to not judge, to not lecture, but to just show them that you care, and that you are willing to walk with them through it. Often, because there's a lot of shame associated with it, yes, there's a lot of money that maybe people would have lost. Family members can be very critical, but being critical is not what is needed, yeah. But it's also important at the same time to set boundaries, not to give money, to check on them regularly, and to ask them to be accountable, to also have an open door. I think that is very important. It's very important for the person who finds that they are addicted to take practical steps. For example, to cut off all their, if they've got accounts with gambling companies, if they have got if they are online, to take steps to actually block, to remove, so that the option of gambling or the opportunity to gamble is minimized. Because if you don't actually take those steps, then it will keep coming at you, because that's the nature of addiction.
As we are nearing the end of this episode, I wanted you to speak to celebrities, influencers that are used as brand ambassadors for betting companies, and these are the people that have got a large following. If they say something, people clap hands. If they say something, people definitely follow. Now we are saying that we have got a problem, gambling addiction. What is your message to these influencers as regards to us mitigating the challenge that we have as at present?
I think the main message is to say that at the end of the day, we want people to live fully, in whatever choices a person makes. We want people to live fully. If a person makes a choice to gamble, it's very important to also speak about the help that is available, to also speak about the stories of triumph that people who have gone through different challenges, especially, let's say, like gambling. So it would be good for them to make people aware that help is available. The ideal would be, to not even to encourage people to start, because it can be a very addictive and destructive habit. And so it's really up to their own individual conscience. It's not for me to tell them what to do or how to say, but they should give the whole picture, because the impression people get is that you make money instantly, you know, and that doesn't always happen. In fact, more likely that won't happen, and that there are other ways of making money. And also to encourage people to really just have compassion for those who are struggling with gambling addiction. Yeah.
And lastly, in a minute, as a nation, what must Malawi collectively commit to doing today to stop losing young people to gambling related harm and suicide?
Yeah, so I mean, legislation I think is very important. I think legislation that also encourages the gambling companies to also talk about the risks. They should come forth with the risks. Even the celebrities you're talking about, I think the risks should be put out there. Like with the cigarette before, there was always a label, this is a risk to your health and so on. But I think with gambling, a lot of the focus you find is very much on encouraging people to gamble, but very little is said about the risks. And the big risk is the gambling addiction, that people can lose a lot. So I think having legislation that forces companies to also put the risk out there is very, very important.
Professor Chiwoza Bandawe, it has been a pleasure hosting you in Face2Face podcast.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. That's how we have concluded today's edition of our Face2Face podcast. My name is Victor DAFFRECE. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Bye-bye.